And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And, I've recently been reading and studying books on management and leadership to help me prepare to apply for a promotion at work. Okay. Now, to prepare, I had to take this 360-degree assessment dealy bob. Okay. I asked my boss and some of my peers to rate me and give me feedback on a number of areas. Okay. Some of what they said was great, okay? And that was awesome to hear. You always love it when people say good things about you. Other things were kind of hard, okay? Now, part of it was hard because I knew it was a problem. I've been working on it. And for them to say it's a problem, it's like, yes, I know. Right. But what makes all of it easier to deal with is humility. And it's humility that helps one to be able to accept criticism so that they can get better, right? It's acknowledging that, hey, you're not perfect, right? And maybe you need to improve. And it's just the fact that you acknowledge that you need to improve is a helpful sign of humility. But humility is the opposite of pride, okay? And I don't mean LGBTQ pride, okay? I mean the emotion of pride. And it is, in my opinion, one of the most dangerous emotions to mankind. Okay? And let's talk about that a little bit, because as I work on humility, one of the things I'm trying to avoid is pride, right? Because they're opposites, really. So let me explain why pride is a problem. And I want to start with a quote from C.S. Lewis, okay? It's a little bit longer quote, so bear with me. It says, now what you want to get clear is that pride is essentially competitive, is competitive by its very nature, while the other vices are competitive only, so to speak, by accident. Pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next man. We say that people are proud of being rich or clever or good looking, but they are not. They are proud of being richer or cleverer or better looking than others. If everyone else became equally rich or clever or good looking, there would be nothing to be proud about. It is the comparison that makes you proud, the pleasure of being above the rest. It is pride which has been the chief cause of misery in every nation and every family since the world began. Excuse me. Other vices may sometimes bring people together. You may find good fellowship and jokes and friendliness among drunken people or unchaste people, but pride always means enmity. It is enmity. End quote. Okay, so pride is by its very nature competitive. Okay. It's pride sets you above somebody else, right? That's where it ends up coming from is I'm proud to be tall, right? Because I'm taller than everybody else, right? It's a problem. It manifests in a number of ways. You end up objectifying others, right? Because hey, I'm proud of anything, right? Sorry, coming up with examples is going to be hard for me this morning, apparently. But then you start saying, well, they don't have that thing, right? So, all right, let's take the I'm proud to be an American, okay? I believe in patriotism. I don't believe patriotism is wrong. But often people take that pride in being American to belittle everyone who is not American, right? Or dismiss them, right? Because that's part of what pride does, right? It's you're setting yourself up on a pedestal and making with this feeling that you are better than everyone else because of whatever, okay? It doesn't matter, if it's your nationality, your height, your sexual orientation, right? As much as this isn't about pride in an LGBTQ sense, the fact that they have used that term, I think, is problematic. Okay, because I think it is building on that we're better than you. Okay, I don't think that's entirely what they mean. Okay, let's be clear. But again, I think the idea of pride is dangerous, and we should try to be avoiding it. We should be trying to be humble. Okay. Other things you get with pride is you get a distrust and a fear, right? A fear that others are doing better than you, or a fear that you're not good enough, and so you're always sort of, I would say, at least that defensiveness, right? You also see that sort of belittling and belittling of others. Excuse me, man. Speaking. So, for example, metric versus quote unquote freedom units, right? I see this a lot online where people who are basically not American mock anyone who uses the imperial units of inches, feet, yards, okay? Now, I will agree, the metric system is objectively better in a lot of ways, okay? Because you're basically just using one unit, okay? Rather than using an inch and a foot and a yard, okay? You're using meters. And then all you're doing is using either fractions of meters or multiples of meters, okay? It's very simple. There are lots of good things about it. I'm less convinced about Celsius versus Fahrenheit, but that's a slightly different, for slightly different reasons, okay? But the idea that, hey, we use the metric system and you just suck because of it, that is a symptom of pride. It creates division and hatred, right? You start getting someone who is proud of their race, and that starts promoting racism, right? Pride is destructive. It sets itself up, as Lewis was saying, to compete, and to compete is to win. And pride is all about winning. It's about, I am better than you because of X. Okay? That's what pride is about. But of course, the other side of that, and this is what I'm trying to work on, is humility. Right? Now, my wife and I celebrated our 28th anniversary last week. Okay? And by celebrated, I mean we said, oh yeah, this was our anniversary, huh? Yep, cool. And moved on, because we're not ones to actually celebrate that type of thing often. You know, I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. Hey, our anniversary's coming up, isn't it? My wife looks at, oh yeah, I guess so. You know, but what makes it work for us to have been together for 28 years? And love, obviously there's love, but humility plays a huge part, and empathy. And this is one of those things I am bad at, okay? Talk about that 360 thing I talked about at the beginning. Empathy is way down on the list for me. I'm bad at empathy, and something I'm working on. But empathy is part of something. It's. I'm not going to say you get it immediately because you're humble, but humility makes it easier to be empathetic. Okay? Because humility, it's what allows a person to listen to others and listen in a way that is understanding and accepting of their viewpoints. Okay? It's accepting that what a person says may have value, and that, hey, maybe we're wrong about something. Now, we may not be. We may be 100% right. But we can accept where they're coming from. Okay, now, again, there are some things that are just objectively wrong. Okay? If someone comes and says, no, I don't care what you think, 2 + 2 = 5, that is objectively wrong. Okay? By the mathematics we use here on Earth, the mathematics generally used by the the people of the world, 2 plus 2 is not 5. Okay? Doesn't matter how sufficiently large numbers of 2 you use, 2 plus 2 is not 5. Okay? That's fine. If someone comes up to you and says, I hated this movie, doesn't matter what you think, they're right. They hated that movie. Okay, right? It doesn't, I mean, you could argue about whether the movie is good or bad, and even that, but that falls still a lot of objectivity in that. But being humble enough to say, okay, I really loved it. You really didn't. But we can have a discussion about it and what you liked and what you didn't like and what I liked and what I didn't like. And maybe we can find common ground on something. Maybe we can't. But being humble enough to listen and to accept that other people have different viewpoints. And that's what goes into empathy, right? To understand how a person feels, right? That is what empathy is. And so to understand, it's like when somebody is, I'm having problems with this website, or this process is stressing me out, or I don't like how this operates on my phone and it's driving me nuts. Even though some of that might be easy for me and it doesn't bother me at all, having empathy to understand that, hey, this doesn't work for them. And this is how it affects them. Right? This is part of what humility does for us. Right? It's just in general, and to greater or lesser extent, right? Some of us have more empathy than others just naturally without having to work at it. This is not me, y'all. Okay? I have to work at empathy. Okay? I just have to work at understanding. Okay? It's a problem. This is a problem that I have. And it came out in that 360 assessment. Right? Again, I was pointing it out for myself, but it didn't make it hurt that much less when my peers also said, hey, dude, you've got this. You need to work on this. Okay? Humility also, how to put this? Humility also helps you to see that, hey, sometimes you need help, and to be willing to accept that help. Okay? So, let me give you an example from many, many years ago. When my wife was pregnant with our youngest daughter, she was dealing with a placental abruption. And basically what this means is the placenta was starting to pull away from the uterine wall. Okay? This is bad. Okay? This is not a good thing. So, we went to the doctor, talked, what did we do? And the doctor prescribed bed rest. So great. So my wife basically then spent the next 6 months on the couch. And it was rough because there were times she barely had the energy to get up from the couch, to make it to the bathroom, and then back to the couch. Okay. Especially in those first couple of months, it was hard. Now, I was fortunate in that my boss at the time allowed me to work from home so that I could help her, I could help take care of the kids when something came up. My wife was still able to homeschool the kids because she could still talk to them and stuff. She just couldn't get up and move around. Right. So we had that, but I did not do single parent very well. Okay. We'll put single in air quotes because yes, my wife was there, but I had to take care of all of the stuff around the house. I had to do all the cooking, right? I had to do all that stuff. Cooking is not a problem. I can cook. Okay. But I was not great at keeping up with the housework. And when you sort of get used to something, right? You just get sort of used to how things look. One example is like a window. A window doesn't go from sparkling clean to dirty overnight, right? It changes a little by little. And you just get sort of used to, oh yeah, there's some spots on the window. Oh well, whatever. And then you wash it and you suddenly realize, wow, I didn't realize how dirty that window was, right? Or sometimes, like, dust on a monitor, right? This is one of those things. I don't dust my monitors very often. And yes, they get dust on them. And I just don't notice, especially when the monitor's on and there's enough light shining through, I don't really see the dust. But then, oh yeah, I guess I should dust today. And it's like, whoa, holy cow, right? The difference that it makes, right? Well, so this is where I was at. It's like, okay, there's stuff, there are dishes in the sink. I haven't cleaned the bathrooms in a little while. I haven't vacuumed today, right? It's just one of those things that just sort of built up. And a couple from church dropped by each with a bucket of cleaning supplies. And they came in and they helped clean the house, right? They cleaned the bathrooms, they did dishes, they cleaned the kitchen, they helped vacuum. And it was one of those things I didn't realize that I needed help, right? I thought I was handling it. I thought I was doing okay. But no, I really did need help. And that is one of the things that humility brings, is like the understanding that of yourself, that you can look around and say, you know what? I'm not holding it together here. I do need help. Right? I hit that realization. Oh, I said it's been a year and a half now ago that I couldn't deal with my depression anymore. It's like because I grew up, and you can joke about, American toxic masculinity. And I'm not sure toxic is the right word, but I was trying to be strong. I thought I could deal with anything, right? I thought that I could just push through. I've dealt with grief before, right? I could just push through and be good. The reality was I couldn't. And finally, I was humble enough to realize that I can't deal with this alone. And I went and I made an appointment and I started seeing a therapist. That was incredibly hard. But I needed to do it because I was not in a good way, okay? Pride prevents you from doing that, okay? Pride prevents you from getting help when you need it, right? And so many of the personal challenges I have in life are based in pride, okay? I get stubborn, right? I don't like to get proven wrong. Nobody likes necessarily to be wrong, but it's like when you've got systems that I'm just positive I know, right? I know this fact. And someone immediately goes to look it up. That hurts my pride, okay? That, right, so that also then brings up that defensiveness I talked about before. An unwillingness to accept that, yes, maybe I'm wrong, right? This is a problem that I have. I know this is a problem. And it's something I'm working on, right? And again, for me, it's hard for me to ask for help. Sometimes it's hard to even acknowledge that I need help, but it's really hard for me to ask for help, right? And it is 100% a pride issue, right? I would be a better man if I were more humble. Straight up. I would be a better man, a better person if I were to really accept and build humility within myself. And I'm working to do that, right? And there's a lot to it sometimes because there's a lot that gets in the way, right? I am also a very passionate person in a lot of ways, and that passion can get in the way of empathy and understanding and acceptance of others, and because I'm right. This is the way it is. I know what's going on, and your experiences are not valid, right? That's pride speaking. Right? So yes, so I've been taking courses on emotional intelligence. I've been taking courses on, we said this leadership course. A lot of what it talks about is, well, trust. It's all based on trust. But trust is built up on things like, trust is built up on things like honesty and integrity and transparency and all of these things that are wrapped up within humility. Okay? And are in fact actively contrary to pride. Again, if we go back to that C.S. Lewis quote, right? Pride is essentially competitive. It is competitive by its very nature. Right? Again, they're not proud of being rich or clever or good looking. They are proud of being richer or cleverer or better looking than others. Okay? That is what pride is. It's what pride does. Pride destroys and divides, and yeah, you might feel better because you're proud. But what does that pride do? Right? I find it interesting that when I read the scriptures, and especially I'm reading the New Testament, and there are a number of accounts of God the Father appearing and commending his son Jesus Christ. And he'll come down and say variations of this phrase. Behold my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. Right? The phrase isn't, behold my beloved son of whom I am very proud. Okay? Now, Christian or not, I think there's a good lesson here. Because pride is competitive. It's elevating the object of your pride above others. And so it's not that in the scriptural account, God is elevating Christ above everyone else. It's that he is pleased with what Christ has chosen to do. Okay. And I took that and tried to apply it when I was rearing my kids. I tried to never say the words that I was proud of what they did, as I was pleased with what they did. Okay? Because again, I don't want to foster pride. I don't want to foster the idea that you are superior to somebody. Right? It's one thing. It's like my oldest daughter was a better dancer than the rest of my kids. Okay? But that doesn't make her better than the rest of my kids. Okay? Right? You understand the difference there? I hope I'm making that clear. Right? My youngest daughter is a much better artist than I'll ever be. Right? I think she's better than most of my other kids, except maybe my second daughter, but her artistic talents are more in fabrics and drawing than painting and stuff like that, right? They both have different talents in different ways. And I'm very pleased that they are enjoying those talents. I'm pleased that they are gaining skills in those talents. But to be proud would be to set them up above somebody else, because they are said. It's not that I'm proud of them being a good painter, proud of them being that they are better than somebody else, right? Because that's what pride does. Okay. And I'm trying to avoid that. And And it bugs me anytime somebody uses the word pride or proud in what they feel is a positive sense, because this is my experience with pride. And it fits very much said with what C.S. Lewis was saying. Pride has built into it a sense of superiority and a sense that I am proud of this because I am better at this, right? And I said, it doesn't matter what this is, okay? I think it's a problem, right? So, yeah, this is something I am personally working on, and I am bad at this, okay? I'll be the first to admit, I am not the most humble person in the world, okay? Some ways it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard Weird Al Yankovic's Amish Paradise. Amish Paradise is a tremendously amazing parody of Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise. But there's a line in it where so the whole song is just built off of pride. But there is a line, it's like where the guy, he says, I'm a million times as humble as thou art, right? He's proud of his humility, right? Look, it's putting himself above somebody else, right? And obviously the contrast is hilarious because being proud of your humility is eliminating your humility. So, but anyway, okay, to bring it back to me, because it's all about me, because I am proud. No, it's, this is something that I am working on. And said, I think humanity, society in general, would be better if we would eliminate pride. Just if we could all cultivate attitudes of humility, not humiliation, okay, but humility, where we could be humble enough to listen to others, to accept their experiences, to accept that we could be wrong and be graceful when we're right. We would all strengthen our empathy with one another, strengthen our understanding of one another, be more willing to help and to accept help from each other. This would be amazing for society if we would just embrace it. Unfortunately, we have a society that promotes pride, that promotes how many likes do you get, how many followers do you have, how much money do you have, right? All of this is a matter of pride, and it is destructive. And I would hope and pray that all of you out there, like me, would work to cultivate an attitude of humility, an honest humility, and that we might minimize pride in ourselves and in society. And with that, I hope you have a great day. Be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static, signing off.